Imagine a percentage of the world's population suddenly vanishing without a trace, and no one knows where they went. That's exactly what we see in today's series, The Leftovers. The story begins on October 14th, 2011, in the town of Mapleton, with a mother at the laundromat holding her infant son, Sam. He's crying nonstop while she's overwhelmed and barely holding it together. The moment she puts him in the car, Sam suddenly disappears. Chaos erupts everywhere. Cars crash, and the mother screams hysterically after losing her baby. We then jump to October 13th, 2014, 3 years later, and learn that 2% of the world's population vanished that day, roughly 140 million people. At that moment, we see Police Chief Kevin running, and a dog shows up in front of him. He approaches it and calls out to it, but suddenly gets shot at by an unknown man inside a car who immediately speeds off. After that, we see Lori, Kevin's wife, waking up and smoking a cigarette. We learn that after the incident, she joined a religious cult whose members dress entirely in white and smoke constantly. She goes down to have breakfast with the others, and we find out one of their rules is total silence. They don't speak and communicate only through writing in notebooks. Lori notices she hasn't been assigned any task that morning, so she goes to Patty, the leader, and asks to join the day's mission. After insisting, Patty reluctantly agrees. Then we see Tom, Kevin's son, with Eddie, a member of the Holy Wayne movement. Eddie hands him money and asks him to blindfold himself. We learn Tom is on his way to meet Wayne, a well-known spiritual healer. During the ride, Eddie asks Tom why he dropped out of college, and Tom remembers 2 classmates jumping off a building, which left him traumatized and unable to continue his studies. Meanwhile, Kevin visits Tony, the owner of a missing dog, telling her he found it, but she doesn't care and tells him the dog ran off 3 years ago before shutting the door in his face. Right then, Kevin gets a call from his coworker reminding him that he's late for the city council meeting. He rushes there, where Mayor Lucy is presiding. She announces the plan to unveil a memorial statue honoring Mapleton's heroes who disappeared, an initiative led by Norah, a woman who lost her entire family. But Kevin warns her that the religious cult is growing larger every day, and he's afraid things might escalate into clashes between them and regular citizens. Still, Lucy insists on holding the ceremony and honoring the families of the heroes who disappeared. At the high school, we see Jill, Kevin's daughter, during practice. She throws one of her teammates to the ground. The girl fights back, and Jill ends up breaking her nose. She's taken to the student affairs office, but because of Jill's complicated family situation, the school decides not to punish her and settles for a simple apology. Meanwhile, when Tom arrives with Eddie to meet Wayne, Eddie goes to check on Christine, an Asian girl, and brings her favorite food. It's obvious he cares about her, but at that moment, he gets a call from Kevin and chooses to ignore it. Eddie later returns, saying all his emotional burdens have disappeared thanks to Wayne, and he asks Tom to stay because Wayne might need him. As for Kevin, he goes back home, hoping he can reach Tom and make sure he's okay. When dinner is ready, he sits with Jill and her friend Amy, who tells him Jill is going through a lot and asks if Jill can go out to a party to see her friends. Later that night, we see Lori with Gladys as they spy on Meg and her fiancé Darren, who ignore them and walk into a restaurant. Inside, Meg talks about the wedding, and it's clear she's not excited about marrying him. When she steps outside, she's shocked to see Gladys and Lori standing there again. This time, Darren comes out, talks to them, and manages to send them away. But when Meg gets home, she finds them standing outside watching her. She gets out of the car, slaps Lori Ladis, and starts yelling at her. But Darren grabs her and pulls her inside. After the party ends, Jill heads out, and before getting in the car, 2 of her friends ask her for a flashlight. She opens the trunk and is shocked to find the dead dog inside. She takes it out and buries it with her friends, confused why her father kept it there in the first place. Later that night, Wayne wakes Tom up, telling him he can sense Tom's feelings toward Christine. That's why Wayne assigns him to protect her and look after her pregnancy until she gives birth. Wayne tells him the unborn child is the chosen one, the future heir after him, and warns Tom never to touch her or get close to her romantically. The next day, Kevin wakes up from a nightmare where he runs over a deer with his car. He immediately gets a call telling him the parade starts in 10 minutes and he needs to be there, so he gets dressed quickly. He's shocked to find Jill missing and realizes she also took his car. Then he's stunned when he sees the kitchen completely destroyed. We learn a deer broke into the house and trashed the place. Kevin arrives at the event, and Lucy asks him to maintain security. But suddenly, Pastor Matt starts handing out flyers claiming the departed weren't taken. They were sinners. So Kevin rushes over to stop him. He then spots Jill standing in the crowd and yells at her, ordering her to go home. Lucy steps up to give a speech marking the 3rd anniversary of the sudden disappearance, revealing a custom-made statue created for the occasion. She invites Norah to speak, since she lost her entire family that day. In the middle of her speech, the religious cult arrives dressed in white, carrying signs telling them to stop what they're doing. The moment the townspeople see them, a fight breaks out between the two sides. Kevin and his officers struggle to separate them before things get worse. At the end of the day, Kevin goes to the cult's residence and asks to see Lori, but one of the members blocks his way and punches him. When Lori finally appears, Kevin tells her she's his wife and needs to come home, but Patty steps out holding a note and tells him he doesn't belong there. As he leaves, Meg arrives asking to spend 2 nights with the group. Patty welcomes her, introduces her to Lori, and asks Lori to look after her. On his way back, Kevin encounters a deer on the road and assumes it's the same one that wrecked his house. Suddenly, a pack of wild dogs attacks the deer and kills it. A man named Marcus steps out of a truck and shoots the dogs, telling Kevin those dogs aren't ours anymore. Meanwhile, at the Federal Investigation Office, we see that Wayne is now considered a national threat linked to members of Congress. Authorities raid his compound, but he isn't there. Christine tries to escape before she gets arrested, but an officer threatens to kill her unless she reveals Wayne's location. Tom shoots the officer and escapes with Christine into a hidden underground bunker. The next day, Kevin wakes up to find his neighbor burning the belongings of his deceased brother. Kevin quickly puts out the fire, gets dressed, and meets with his therapist, who asks about Lori and Kevin's mental state. Kevin insists that everything he's been seeing actually happened and isn't some kind of hallucination. Meanwhile, Lori takes Meg out to chop wood to help her adapt to their way of life. But Meg gets frustrated and snaps at Lori, saying she's been with them for weeks and still has nothing to do. She storms off and returns home. At that moment, Kevin arrives at the compound and tells Patty there's a search warrant regarding a missing civilian. He goes inside and meets Ron, informing him that his family is looking for him. Then he sits down with Meg and tells her that her fiancé is searching for her, handing her his business card in case she needs help. When Kevin returns to the police station, Lucy tells him she knows he visited the cult's headquarters and warns him not to involve himself with them, saying it will only cause trouble. Just then, Kevin learns that Darren is there and wants to see him. Kevin explains to him that Meg joined the cult willingly, believing their mission is to remind people of those who disappeared. Kevin asks Darren if he can convince her to leave, but Darren loses his temper and says he spent 3 years trying to convince her to marry him, yet she kept refusing, so he's done chasing her. Meanwhile, we see Jill and Amy at a restaurant, where Jill is shocked to see Norah, and even more surprised when she notices Norah has a gun in her bag. She tells Amy, who then notices Norah intentionally knocking over her teacup so she won't have to pay for it. The girls decide to follow her, especially after hearing her tragic backstory. We then learn that Norah joined the Department of Sudden Departure to investigate possible links between people who vanished. She visits an elderly couple whose son, who had Down syndrome, disappeared at age 34. As for Tom, he finally meets up with Wayne after escaping the police. Wayne tells him he trusts him and chose him to protect Christine until she gives birth to the special child. Wayne tries to take away Tom's emotional pain, but Tom refuses. Before they part, Wayne gives him a phone so he can reach him whenever he needs to. After Wayne leaves, Tom breaks down and feels completely defeated, so Christine tries to comfort him and promises that everything will eventually be okay. Later that day, Kevin visits his father at the psychiatric hospital. His father tells him he's clearly suffering from the same things he once did, and that Kevin should be afraid, because if he keeps chasing his visions, he might end up locked away just like him. He warns Kevin to stop following these hallucinations before it's too late. The next morning, Patty wakes Lori up and tells her that Meg has run off. We see Meg angrily hacking at tree branches with an axe, overwhelmed and losing control. Meanwhile, at church, Matt is preaching about a girl named Emily who had been battling cancer since childhood. He asks everyone to pray for her and support her. Suddenly, a man storms in, punches Matt, and shoves one of Matt's own flyers into his mouth. Matt is rushed to the hospital, where Kevin questions him and urges him to stop distributing provocative material that keeps upsetting the public. After Kevin leaves, Matt visits Emily and learns she was discharged from the hospital because her condition improved. Encouraged, he returns to the church, only to receive a call from the bank informing him he must make a payment immediately to save the church from being sold. He heads to the bank, where the employee explains they have been trying to reach him for 2 weeks. Because of his delay, an investment company is set to buy the church and redevelop the land. Matt is given until the next day to gather $135,000, or the church will be gone. Desperate, Matt visits Norah. It becomes clear they once had feelings for each other. He explains his situation and asks if she can lend him the money to save the church. Norah refuses, telling him that money is all she has left from her children, and if he truly insists on taking it, he should at least stop writing those hurtful flyers, because they mean nothing and will never bring her family back. Cornered, Matt tells her something for her own good, that her husband had been having an affair with the boy's teacher before he disappeared. Norah laughs, thinking he's joking, refuses to believe it, and throws him out of her house. Matt returns home and meets Roxanne, giving her part of her payment, then goes to Mary, his paralyzed wife. He changes her clothes gently, lies down beside her on the floor, and prays for God to help him. Suddenly, Matt gets an idea. He asks Roxanne to stay with Mary and promises he'll figure everything out this time and pay her everything he owes. He then heads straight to Kevin's house, where he's shocked to find Lori there. She hands him a note asking him not to tell Kevin she was there. Matt promises, but only on the condition that she also never mentions she saw him. Matt goes to the spot Kevin's father told him about and starts digging. He eventually finds the buried box, which contains $20,000. He takes the money to a casino and sits at a table where he'd previously seen a dove, a sign he takes his luck. He gambles, takes risks, and astonishingly wins $150,000. But as he leaves, a man ambushes him and tries to steal the money. Matt fights back, beats him, grabs the cash, and runs. He then returns the original $20,000 to Kevin's father's hiding place and gets back in his car, ready to pay off the debt at the bank. On his way, he sees two members of the cult being pelted with stones by people in a car. Matt stops, gets out, and calls an ambulance. But suddenly, one of the attackers throws a rock at him too, hitting him hard in the head. He loses consciousness and slips into a dreamlike vision of Mary on the night of the accident, the night she was left unable to speak or move. In the vision, it becomes clear that Matt had been cheating on her with a coworker earlier that same day. When Matt wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital. He quickly gets dressed and tells a nurse to call the bank employee. Then he rushes to the bank, even though it's already closed. He insists on speaking to the employee, telling him he managed to gather the entire amount to save the church. But Matt is stunned when the man tells him 3 days have passed since their last conversation. He tried calling Matt multiple times, but couldn't reach him. The church has already been sold. Heartbroken, Matt leaves the bank and heads to the church, only to discover that the buyers are none other than the religious cult, led by Patty. Afterward, we see a toy factory begin mass-producing dolls modeled after the Miracle Baby, and people start buying them. Some residents even treat the dolls as sacred, placing one in the town square and beginning to worship it. As days pass, the sacred doll goes missing, and the town demands that Kevin find it. Kevin returns home and tries calling Tom, but as usual, he can't reach him. He asks Jill if she's heard from her brother, and she tells him it's been over a month since Tom last contacted her. She knows nothing about where he is. Jill then asks about the missing holy doll and whether Kevin thinks he can find it. He casually responds that they could just replace it with another one, but Jill strongly disagrees, telling him that would be cheating because the doll is considered sacred and he has to find the real one. Later, Kevin meets with Lucy, who gives him the exact specifications of the doll so he can purchase a replacement. He goes to a toy store and finds a similar one, but Jill's words echo in his mind. He refuses to fake it and insists on finding the original. Meanwhile, Tom is still with Christine and is clearly upset because Wayne hasn't contacted him in over a week. Suddenly, a naked man attacks them, accusing Christine of knowing the truth and claiming she must get rid of the baby. Tom fights him off, grabs Christine, and rushes her to the hospital, where they learn the baby is safe. But the doctor becomes suspicious, thinking Tom might have assaulted her. She steps out and calls security to arrest him. Realizing this, Tom urges Christine to run with him, but she's too exhausted to move. He's forced to leave her behind and escape the hospital security before they catch him. Around the same time, Kevin stops Jill's friends and tells them that surveillance footage shows someone who looks like them stealing the doll and asks them to come forward if they know anything. That night, the group meets with Jill, and it's revealed that she was the one who stole the doll. Jill takes the doll to the lake and decides to burn it after tossing it into the water. But at the last moment, she can't bring herself to do it. Kevin later returns home and finds Meg and Lori waiting for him. He lets them inside, and Meg begins reading aloud from the notes Lori wrote, revealing that Lori is asking for a divorce. She hands Kevin the paperwork and asks him to sign, but he refuses, reminding her that she's his wife and the mother of their children. At that moment, Jill walks in and hears most of the conversation. She quietly hands her mother a birthday present, then goes upstairs to her room. Lori leaves with Meg, opens Jill's gift, which turns out to be a lighter, and Jill asks her not to forget her. Meg suggests Lori keep it and not tell anyone, but Lori throws the lighter into a storm drain and walks away. Meanwhile, Tom returns to the hospital in disguise to rescue Christine. The moment she sees him, she's overjoyed that he came back. Tom tells her he promised Wayne he would protect her and her baby. On their way out, they pass a group of bodies wrapped in white cloth. Christine becomes excited and tells him the scene looks exactly like the dream she always has. The next morning, Kevin wakes up and finds the sacred doll placed in front of his house. He takes it to the town event and tells Lucy he managed to recover it. When he's leaving, he sees Norah sitting on the ground. She recognizes him and opens up about losing her entire family. Kevin, in return, admits he cheated on his wife and believes it may be one of the reasons she distanced herself from him. As he leaves the school, he's surprised to see Patty and several cult members. He arrests them to prevent any escalation. But as he looks around, he realizes some members are missing. We then see the rest of the cult secretly entering people's homes and removing every framed photograph, silently wiping out reminders of the departed. On the way back, Lori insists on walking, and it becomes clear she's heading to retrieve the birthday gift Jill threw away. Kevin later goes to the town square and finds Matt placing a different baby doll on display. Matt wishes him a Merry Christmas. Kevin picks up the original doll he brought and tosses it out of his car window before heading home. We then cut to Gladys and another cult member standing near a gas station. The moment her partner steps away, Gladys is abducted into the woods. She's tied to a tree, and a group of civilians begin stoning her mercilessly until she dies, covered in blood. The next morning, Kevin wakes up, opens his closet, and is shocked to see that all his white shirts are gone. He's forced to wear something from the laundry basket instead. When he opens the front door, Patty is standing there holding a note. She writes that one of their members has been killed. Kevin arrives at the scene and begins investigating the incident. He orders Patty and the rest of the cult members not to leave the house because they could be targeted next. Surprisingly, Patty agrees and actually listens to him. But at that moment, Lori starts feeling dizzy and suffers a panic attack. She's rushed to the hospital, where the doctor tells her she must quit smoking, or at least limit herself to 2 cigarettes a day. When she steps outside, Patty is waiting for her and immediately takes her away in the car. Meanwhile, Kevin arrives at Jill's school, where she breaks down crying the moment she sees him. Terrified something happened to her mother, he reassures her that Lori is fine and explains that he only came to tell her a cult member was murdered, and he wanted her to hear it from him before hearing it elsewhere. He tells her to go home with Amy until he returns. Kevin then goes to the police station, where he discovers that Lou has already contacted federal authorities about the murder. Lucy storms in after hearing the commotion, and when she realizes Lou called Sean and reported the incident, she grabs the paperwork from him and orders him to undo the damage. Kevin urges her to impose a citywide curfew because he's afraid civilians will retaliate. Lucy replies that she'll bring it up at the council meeting tomorrow and see what the committee thinks. Elsewhere, where Patty takes Lori to a hotel and writes her a note telling her to rest. When Lori wakes up, she finds instructions telling her to put on the clothes laid out for her and meet Patty in the restaurant. Lori follows the instructions and sees she's been given clothes completely different from her usual white outfit. And Patty, too, has abandoned her white clothing for the day. Even more shocking, Patty allows her to speak for the first time in over 8 months, explaining that she wants Lori to have a day of relief, to let go of the past and think about her future. Meanwhile, Kevin goes to the dry cleaner, desperately trying to retrieve his missing white shirts, but they're not there. He returns to the station and begins questioning Matt, believing he might be involved in Gladys's death, especially since the cult bought the church from him and immediately kicked him out. Matt tells him he was at home with fellow church members praying for Mary and insists Kevin visit Gladys in the morgue so he can pray over her body. Kevin refuses Matt's request and heads to the town council. There, he argues in favor of a curfew, but the civilians, especially the committee members, reject the proposal, claiming it would be like imprisoning them in their own homes. Forced to act on his own, Kevin goes to the cult's residence and gives them a siren whistle to use if anyone attacks them. He instructs all members not to leave the house after 8 p.m., but he notices that Patty and Lori are missing. When he asks Meg where they are, she snaps at him, saying she doesn't know, and that Lori is no longer his wife, so he has no right to ask about her. After that, Kevin brings Matt to the morgue, reconsidering Matt's earlier words. But when they arrive, they're shocked to find Gladys's body missing. Soon, Kevin learns that Sean sent the body to his office in Washington for autopsy. Furious, Kevin texts him, demanding that he return the body to Mapleton immediately. Later at home, Kevin gets a call from Sean telling him that this is actually the first message he received from him. He informs Kevin that the body is already on its way to the state lab. Sean also says that within weeks, he can send in 3 truckloads of armed federal police to forcibly remove the cult from town because their presence is a danger to civilians, and that Kevin's priority should be protecting his community. That night, Kevin is shown drunk, buying alcohol from a market. On his way out, he stops at the dry cleaner and assaults the attendant, forcing him to hand over a stack of white shirts to replace the ones that mysteriously disappeared. Meanwhile, Patty returns home with Lori, and they find Meg already wearing white, fully committed to joining the cult. Outside, Matt stands with a group of civilians praying for Gladys. Lori, heartbroken by her death, steps outside holding her whistle and blows it in his face, silencing him. The next day, Norah meets with a family member of a departed victim, gathering information for her research. After work, she stops by a supermarket to buy groceries, heads home, and begins cleaning. She then calls a woman named Angel, who appears to be an escort paid by the hour. Norah puts on a bulletproof vest, gives Angel double her usual rate, and asks her to shoot her. Norah plays loud music, provoking her until Angel finally fires the gun, takes the money, and runs. Norah collapses onto the bed, but after a moment, she gets back up, breathing heavily. Norah then appears in court, filing for divorce after learning about her husband's affair with their children's teacher. The judge approves the request and officially dissolves the marriage. As she leaves the courthouse, she runs into Kevin, who is also there to file for divorce from Lori as she requested. Norah asks Kevin if he'd like to take a trip with her just to clear their heads, but Kevin refuses, saying he can't leave Jill alone. Later, Norah returns to the research center, where her supervisor asks her to cover a press conference in New York. He brings up question 121, a sexual behavior question that most staff members are too uncomfortable to ask. Norah replies calmly, saying she asks it every time, and people always answer without hesitation, and she admits she herself has answered yes to the last 3 items. When she arrives at the hotel for the conference, she finds crowds of civilians protesting outside. She goes to the 3rd floor to pick up her badge, only to discover someone has already taken it and impersonated her. The staff gives her a temporary badge labeled guest and tells her to look around for the person who stole her credentials. At that moment, Norah notices a woman across the room staring at her intensely. Assuming she's the thief, Norah follows her into the restroom and waits for her to come out. But the woman tells her she didn't take anything. In fact, the two of them had a confrontation at a previous conference, where Norah, in her grief, accused her of sleeping with her husband. Norah apologizes, explaining she wasn't in the right state of mind because of the trauma of losing her children. Later, Norah gets into an elevator where she meets a young man named Marcus, who seems instantly attracted to her. He invites her to a party with his friends, and she ends up drinking and taking drugs until she's barely conscious. Marcus shows her a design he created, an exact replica of her likeness. He explains that people pay large sums just to take photos with his invention. The next morning, Norah wakes up to hotel security kicking her out for allegedly breaking the minibar and causing trouble. She tries to explain that someone impersonated her and stole her badge, but no one believes her. Norah leaves the hotel and checks into another one. She changes her clothes, then goes to a forgery office and has a new conference badge created in her name. When she returns to the original hotel, security immediately arrests her and takes her to the manager, who accuses her of falsifying credentials. Norah begs him to believe her and insists she can prove someone impersonated her. Reluctantly, the manager accompanies her back to the conference, where Norah identifies the woman who stole her badge. Security arrests the imposter on the spot. Later at the bar, Norah meets a famous author who tells her his daughter disappeared a year and a half ago, but he doesn't seem sad or emotionally affected at all. Norah snaps, yelling at him that he must not have loved his daughter. He gets irritated and walks away. As she stands there shaken, a man approaches Norah, saying he knows exactly what happened to her, and that if she doesn't want to drown in her pain the way he did, she needs to follow him. He leads her to a private session with Wayne, paying a $1,000 fee for the meeting. The moment Wayne sees her, he tells her that people come to him so he can take their pain away, so completely that afterwards, they don't even remember it. He says that's exactly what happened to the writer she met earlier. He steps closer and asks her to hug him, assuring her he won't let her suffering destroy her, that she needs to face it and then move past it. Norah breaks down crying and hugs him. Days later, she is seen at the supermarket looking almost transformed, calm, lighter, and happier, as if her entire face has changed. When she arrives home, Kevin visits her. He tells her he reconsidered her offer and agrees to go away with her. He even invites her over for dinner at his house. The next day, Jill, Amy, and their friends are in the woods playing a game where Jill must stay inside a refrigerator for as long as possible. Jill breaks the record, but unfortunately the latch snaps and they can't open the door. Her breathing tightens and she panics until the door suddenly swings open. Standing there is her grandfather, Max. He rescues her and begs her not to tell Kevin he was there, revealing he escaped from the psychiatric hospital. Meanwhile, Tom and Christine continue traveling, and Christine is clearly exhausted. She's close to giving birth. Tom stops at a pharmacy where he gets a call from Wayne instructing him to take some of the money he has and place it under a specific mailbox. As Kevin walks Norah to her house, he finds Meg and another cult member standing outside her door. Kevin orders them to leave her alone, but Norah simply sprays them with water and sits with Kevin. He becomes visibly tense, reminded that his wife is part of the same cult, so he tells Norah he should visit her another time. When Kevin returns home, Jill tells him her grandfather has escaped from the psychiatric hospital. Kevin rushes to the police station and orders his officers to locate him immediately. Then, he visits Lucy to ask if she knows where he might have gone. She's shocked to hear he escaped and admits she hasn't visited him in months. Kevin returns home and dreams that he's about to shoot a dog, but hesitates at the last moment. He approaches the crate to release it, and suddenly the dog lunges and bites him. Kevin wakes up on the floor, startled, only to find a dog sitting outside his house. Then he notices an actual bite mark on his hand. Amy tells him he was the one who brought the dog home, and that she cleaned his wound and applied ointment. Kevin is stunned. He doesn't remember any of it. Later, he learns his father attacked Officer Dennis after Dennis stopped him from entering the public library. When Kevin goes there, the librarian tells him his father was desperately searching for a book meant for his son. Meanwhile, Tom takes half the money he has and places it under the mailbox, as Wayne instructed. Suspicious, he waits in his car to see who comes for it. A young man eventually arrives, grabs the money, and drives off. Tom follows him home, only to discover the man lives with another pregnant girl. Tom realizes Wayne has been lying to him. There are many pregnant women, all hidden with different men. Back in Mapleton, Jill is shocked when she finds her grandfather playing with the dog. She immediately calls Kevin and reports it. She stays with her grandfather, giving him food and clothes. He asks her for some of the pills Kevin takes, saying he needs them. Kevin arrives shortly after, arrests him, and puts him in the car. But on the drive back, traffic slows down. Taking advantage of the moment, Garvey Sr. escapes before Kevin can return him to the hospital. Kevin returns home completely defeated. Amy asks whether he managed to get his father back to the hospital, but he tells her not to worry and insists he'll take care of it. She reminds him about the dog and about the previous night when the shocking truth is revealed. Kevin slept with Amy, and he doesn't remember any of it. Embarrassed and overwhelmed, Kevin goes upstairs, dumps all his pills into the toilet, and flushes them away. He then grabs some meat and throws it to the dog. While outside, he notices a hole in the ground. Inside it, he finds money and realizes it belongs to Matt. Kevin rushes to Roxanne and asks her to call Matt. When Matt arrives, he tells Kevin he has Garvey Sr. with him. They meet at a diner, where Kevin's father tries to recruit him for a mysterious mission, claiming it's connected to the sudden departure. Kevin refuses, telling him he can't put his family at risk over his delusions. The argument escalates, and Kevin is forced to arrest his father and return him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Tom learns that many other girls are pregnant, each one assigned to a different protector, just like Christine. When one of the girls overhears him talking, she becomes hysterical, grabs a gun, and tries to kill him. She can't handle the truth that Wayne lied to her, that her baby isn't the chosen one. Tom escapes, wounded and bleeding. When he returns to the motel, he finds Christine in the bathtub. She has given birth, and the baby is a girl, not the chosen boy Wayne promised. The following day, Norah visits Kevin for dinner. During the meal, Jill tells Norah she saw a gun in her bag, which made her suspicious. Norah calmly hands her bag to Jill and explains that she used to carry the gun for protection, but she doesn't need it anymore. The next morning, Kevin wakes up in a remote area in the woods with no memory of how he got there. Dean is standing in front of him, saying there's something he needs to see. Kevin follows him into a cabin and is shocked to find Patty inside, tied to a chair. Back in town, Meg gets into a fight with Matt, hitting him after seeing a flyer he wrote about her and her mother. Lori pulls her away and brings her home, telling her that violence is forbidden, that it's a sign of weakness and lack of control. Wanting to prove she isn't weak, Meg goes back to Matt later and apologizes, admitting she was wrong. Kevin is completely confused and slowly realizes that everything happening is the result of actions he doesn't remember. Dean explains that Kevin woke up, went to the bar, and the two of them drank together. While they were there, Kevin suddenly saw Patty, attacked her, and then dragged her with them all the way to New York. Kevin is horrified. He remembers none of it. He rushes into the cabin where Patty has regained consciousness and apologizes, insisting he didn't mean to hurt her and that he will take her home safely so they can forget all of this. But Patty tells him she never forgets. The moment she returns, she'll report that he abducted and assaulted her. He'll lose his job, lose everything. And the worst part, they'll take his daughter away from him. Feeling trapped and overwhelmed, Kevin tries to think rationally. He starts asking Patty about the members of her organization and who she reports to. She gives him the information, but when he shares it with Dean, Dean becomes furious. He drags Kevin outside and tells him that the only way to protect himself and his town is to kill Patty because she has hurt him, hurt the community, and will destroy his life. Kevin refuses. He won't harm her. He walks away. Meanwhile, Jill and her friends sneak into Nora's house looking for the gun Norah said she no longer uses. They eventually find it inside a box under her daughter's bed. Jill leaves immediately before Norah returns. At that moment, Norah gets a call from Kevin. He admits he's done something terrible, that he wasn't in his right mind, and that he needs her. He wants to see her. After hanging up, Kevin notices all his missing white shirts hanging from the trees. He realizes he hung them there during one of his blackout episodes. Panicked, he races back to the cabin to free Patty and bring her home. But when he enters, he's horrified to find Dean smothering her with a plastic sheet, attempting to kill her. Kevin fights him off and manages to save Patty. Dean storms out, declaring he won't help Kevin anymore. Back in Mapleton, Lori receives a shipment of supplies from the GR distributors, following Patty's previous instructions. She commands the rest of the cult to help unload them. Moments later, she asks if anyone has seen Patty. When she learns no one knows where Patty is, she prepares to execute their plan the next day. But she's stunned when Jill suddenly appears and announces she wants to join the cult. Meanwhile, Patty speaks with Kevin and tells him that the sudden departure happened because something terrible in the world had gone wrong, and that if he hadn't cheated on his wife, she never would have left him or asked for a divorce. She insists that everything the guilty remnant does is meant to remind the world of the truth. They lost the people they loved, and nothing will ever be the same again. In the middle of their conversation, Kevin can no longer bear Patty's words. He feels the full weight of guilt toward himself before even his wife. He grabs a knife from his bag, cuts Patty free, and tells her he will turn himself in, even if it costs him his job and his daughter. He says he just wants to understand what's happening to him. But suddenly, Patty grabs a broken bottle from the floor and slashes her own throat. Kevin rushes to her, desperately trying to save her. With her final breath, she tells him, "Now you understand." We then cut to the past, the day before the sudden departure. Kevin is shown jogging, living a stable, peaceful life with Lori and Jill. Lori arrives at work and receives a call from her doctor, reminding her not to miss her appointment. She then meets Patty, who tells her she senses the end of the world is coming. Meanwhile, Norah wakes up at home. Her kids are already awake, and she prepares breakfast for them. She's excited about her upcoming job interview. Her husband, Doug, clearly loves her and supports her, encouraging her before she leaves. Norah later meets with Lucy, hoping to get hired for a political campaign. Max enters and urges Lucy to give Norah the job and reminds her not to be late for his birthday party that night. As for Kevin, he's at the police station when he receives a call from Tom saying he's been arrested. Kevin rushes to the scene and learns Tom got into a fight with Max. It's revealed that Kevin raised Tom after marrying Lori. Tom isn't biologically his. Kevin takes Tom to Max's house, furious, and confronts him. He warns Max to stay away and never come near Tom again. He then brings Tom home, where Lori and Jill celebrate his return warmly. That night, they all gather for Max's birthday party. Even with the cheerful atmosphere, Kevin feels something missing, an emptiness he can't explain and can't admit to anyone. The next day, Lori discovers Tom fought with Max and that Kevin covered for him. She's shocked Kevin hid it from her. At the same time, we see Kevin jogging again as usual, until suddenly a sewer grate explodes right in front of him. He barely dodges it in the last second, narrowly escaping death. Kevin returns home and tells Lori what happened, but she doesn't seem interested. What matters to her is that he isn't honest with her. He admits he smokes behind her back and that he hates having so many dogs in the house, but stayed quiet because she wanted them. At that moment, he gets a call from a resident saying there's a deer inside their home. Kevin goes there, but fails to catch it. Suddenly, he hears a loud crash. When he rushes outside, he finds a car has hit the deer and killed it. The police arrive to investigate, and Kevin ends up giving the girl involved in the accident a ride home. Meanwhile, Lori arrives at the clinic where she meets Mary, Matt's wife, and introduces herself. When Lori goes inside for her appointment, it's revealed she's pregnant. She has been hiding the pregnancy from everyone. We then see Norah preparing breakfast for her family, waiting anxiously for an important call from Lucy. Her daughter suddenly spills juice on the phone, and Norah yells at her before wiping it quickly to save it from the liquid. At that exact moment, Kevin is having sex with the woman he met, Jill and Tom are at school working on an electrical experiment, and life continues as normal, until suddenly, people vanish into thin air. Norah's entire family disappears. Her kids from the kitchen table, her husband from the bathroom. Lori's fetus disappears from inside her womb, and this becomes the moment that breaks her relationship with Kevin forever. Returning to the present, we see Kevin sitting in the cabin beside Patty's lifeless body after she killed herself in front of him. He calls Matt, begging for help. Meanwhile, Tom drives with Christine and the newborn baby. When the baby cries from hunger, he stops the car, but Christine is devastated. Wayne lied to her, abandoned her, and the chosen one was never real. She tells Tom she is going to change the baby, goes into a restroom, and suddenly Tom hears the baby screaming. He rushes in and finds the baby alone on the floor. Christine is gone. He searches and shouts her name, but finds nothing. Back in Mapleton, Lori walks with Jill and tells her she must go home because the situation isn't safe. Instead, Jill puts on white clothes, just like the guilty remnant, and insists she's staying with her mother. Meg writes to Lori, telling her the plan must be carried out and that Jill will be safe with her. The entire guilty remnant leaves the house and executes their mission while the civilians are asleep. The next morning, Norah wakes up and experiences the shock of her life. She finds lifelike mannequins of her departed family sitting exactly where they vanished. She collapses into screams, reliving the pain all over again. Matt arrives at Kevin's location and sees what happened. His loyalty and love for Kevin are obvious. He's willing to do anything for him. He helps Kevin carry Patty's body deep into the woods where they bury her. Matt then tells Kevin to pray for her soul, gives him clean clothes to wear, and washes the blood from his face. They get into the car to head home. Kevin falls asleep in the passenger seat and suddenly wakes up in a psychiatric hospital, showing signs of delusion and hallucinations. They lock him in a room, and he finds a note saying, "If you stay quiet, you'll get to watch TV." He obeys. And soon they let him out, where he sees his father, who tells him that they are the ones who brought him to this point of madness. But then Patty appears, approaching him. Kevin keeps repeating that she's dead, that he buried her himself. He jolts awake, realizing it was another hallucination, and sees Matt beside him. They're still in the car, still on their way home. They stop to eat, and Kevin finally opens up. He says he now understands why he didn't disappear during the sudden departure, because he had already made a choice to leave his family and was cheating with another woman. When the departure happened, that woman vanished instantly. His first instinct was to run to his children's school, and when they hugged him, he felt grateful his family was still there. But afterward, one by one, he began losing each of them emotionally. Kevin breaks down crying. In the restaurant bathroom, he finds Wayne stabbed and dying. Wayne asks Kevin to sit with him and grant him a wish, any wish, even if Kevin doesn't say it out loud. Kevin silently makes a wish. Wayne smiles and tells him it has been granted before taking his final breath. Police burst in and arrest Kevin for Wayne's murder, but he reveals his identity as Mapleton's police chief and says this is the first time he's ever met Wayne. They release him, and he goes home with Matt. That night, Kevin returns to Mapleton to find the town in chaos. Civilians have discovered that the guilty remnant created mannequins of their departed loved ones, triggering riots. People burn down GR houses and attack members of the cult. Kevin sprints through the flames and rescues Lori, but for the first time ever, she speaks, screaming for him to save Jill. Kevin charges into the burning house, finds Jill trapped inside, and carries her out to safety. At sunrise, we see Norah unable to cope with her family's loss. She writes Kevin a heartfelt letter telling him she loves him and wished she could have spent her life with him. But she still remembers her children and always will. That memory is too strong. She must leave town to survive. She takes the letter to place it at Kevin's door, but instead she finds Christine's abandoned baby sitting there. Norah picks up the child, holds her tightly, and decides to raise her, to fill the hole her own children left behind. Moments later, Kevin arrives home with Jill. When he looks at Norah holding the baby, he sees something in her eyes he has never seen before, a look of real happiness.